Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 27 is under a month away from being shown for the first time at WWDC 2027, or the Worldwide Developer Conference. Stability and refinement is what many have been saying is coming to iOS for years, but it seems that iOS 27 will definitely focus on this. However, there's new information about changes coming to apps and one I'm particularly looking forward to. So it seems that iOS 27 will also have some additional updates to apps and features like usual, but it looks like maybe not as many. But there are some new rumors and features, so I thought we'd focus on just what's new over the past few days. But if you want to jump to any part of the video about a specific app or feature, be sure to check out the chapters in the description. Now, of course, many people have been waiting for an updated Siri for years and for Apple to live up to their Siri promise with Apple Intelligence. It seems iOS 27 will bring that, and Mark Gurman has shared additional details about Siri and a new app to go along with Siri. Siri will mostly show in the dynamic island, expanding like many apps do in the same way, according to Mark Gurman. So maybe if we go into music, play some music here, swipe home, it goes up into the dynamic island. So we should see something expand out of that. Of course, devices that don't have dynamic islands may not support this new feature. We don't really know, but you'll have the same sort of options there. When you ask Siri about something, supposedly it will show results in a card format with a transparent design, and if you swipe up on this card, it will then activate a conversation mode based on what's in the specific dialogue, and then look similar to iMessage, and then give smaller cards for things such as notes or weather or anything that you're asking. So it will have sort of a card dynamic throughout the OS with a card format. And we've seen some of this throughout, but not exactly the same. So of course we have the widget here with weather that I'm using Mercury weather, but sometimes you do get cards when you utilize Siri. So if I ask about WWDC, you'll see we have a card here, but apparently it will be more transparent, more liquid glass, and again have additional cards that you can tap on for more information. Now, if you're within an app, whether that's Maps or something else, a third-party app, he said you'll be able to swipe down from the center of the display, and that will activate a system-wide search with the option to sort of ask about that search or whatever you would like about the app or anything throughout the OS. So you could get more information from within the app itself or from the OS, again, just by swiping down from the center. So again, we'll have to see if this is something they implement, but he's usually pretty right about this. Now, the second part of Siri will be a dedicated chatbot app. So similar to what we have with maybe Gemini or things such as ChatGPT, you would be able to utilize this with queries that you could make, talk about it, ask it questions, talk back and forth, again, similar to ChatGPT or Gemini, maybe Claude or others. You could upload images or documents and, of course, find information based off of those, similar to what we have with visual intelligence now, but again, with a whole new interface that's been redesigned. You'll also see options for different things that you've talked about in the past, and you'll also have a plus button to start a new conversation. So this is something that would be a little bit different. Start a new conversation about previous queries that you've made or suggestions or things like that, or just start about something new and talk about whatever you're looking for. So that's something we should see, again, with an all-new icon maybe, an all-new application to go along with that. Now, I've mentioned this a little bit before, but according to Mark Gurman, you'll be able to change out what chatbot you want to use as well. So under Apple Intelligence and Siri, our current options here are just for extensions for ChatGPT, but he suggests that we'll have other options, whether that's Gemini, Claude, maybe something else, and we'll be able to swap that out with whatever we want, and also do the same with the chatbot. So if we don't want to use Apple Intelligence's built-in chatbot, we could use a third-party chatbot. Now there's some design changes that are expected throughout, some simplifications or refinements where the keyboard is getting a new animation when it opens where it slides up from the bottom, but that already slides up from the bottom, so it must be something new. Also, it's said that the keyboard could get a revised autocorrect as Apple is testing this according to Mark Gurman. However, we don't really know if they're going to implement this. I know many people would love to see a number row at the top. Some people that have started with iPhones like myself, this doesn't really bother me, but I know a lot of people would really like to have this permanently at the top. So maybe we'll see some design changes there. Hopefully we'll see improvements with autocorrect and maybe some other changes we weren't expecting. Now, more apps are said to be combining the search option in the tab bar like we already see. So for example, right now with the tab bar here at the bottom, within music, we have a separate search button in the bottom right. With the recent updates, we've seen some changes with the App Store, for example, where Apple combined this along with the Games app. It's said to be combined in more apps throughout with iOS 27. So whether or not you like this, it's sort of a unification of the design throughout where we'll have search in the bottom right, but not as a separate button. Also, as I mentioned in previous videos, Mark Gurman has said that the home screen layout will have a change. So for example, if we go into maybe customization here, tap on edit, maybe you change something, maybe you add a widget, or maybe move some icons around. You would be able to undo and then redo from the same menu. So hopefully we do see this implemented and a few changes here and there. Now, Apple introduced Image Playground not too long ago, but it's said to be getting a big revision this year. So a full redesign where it's going to be a little bit better. According to Mark Gurman, it's getting a full overhaul, with the new design having less controls, but also having a describe changes dialog that would help you sort of create what you want here. So if I wanted to do new image, then I can sort of suggest things or describe it, but this interface is going to change supposedly in the future update. So it will be a little bit clearer and more simple. The Weather app is said to be getting an update as well. Now, I typically use the Apple Weather app and Mercury Weather as I really like their widget, and you'll see, of course, the Weather app itself doesn't seem to need a whole lot of revision. But according to Mark Gurman, there'll be an updated view for current conditions. So if we tap this bottom icon here, and then we go to the upper right, we can select things such as wind, air quality, precipitation, and other things. There will be an updated view for this, according to Mark Gurman. One of the biggest changes that I'm looking forward to is the camera app is set to get an update, as many people were not a huge fan of the iOS 26 revision. According to Mark Gurman at Bloomberg, the camera app will allow for greater customization, allowing you to show or remove features such as resolution, photo styles, flash, or other things within the app. So maybe if we go in here, we've got live, timer, styles, and those things. He said that there's going to be widget styles that you could place at the top for different options. So maybe you want to place exposure or resolution at the top. You'll be able to do that, and it will be independent from photo and video. It will remember the settings. You'll go into photo, maybe change the customization where you would want to see a certain tone or something like that here. You would be able to place those in a widget style, drag them up to the top here. So that would be something I'm looking forward to, hopefully with more pro modes within video and hopefully more tools as well. Instead of using the Final Cut camera app, maybe we'll have pro apps within here or pro options here where we could see maybe a histogram or waveforms or something like that. So I really hope they add that where we have our resolution and our frame rate here, but maybe we'll have more options here where we'll be able to select them directly from here and then drag them up to the top. So that makes a lot of sense, customizing it for whatever we use the most. And while nothing was mentioned as far as changes to the Photos app, I certainly hope they do change some of this around, as some of it's quite confusing when you're going through the menus, and it's just not as intuitive or simple to get what you want. So I really would like to see a revision there. Safari is also said to gain some new tab-based features. So if we go back here, we're on the Start page. According to Mark Gurman, there will be 4 different tabs. Across the top, you'll quickly be able to select different things such as bookmarks, favorites, history, and reading list. So instead of maybe going into a website and then you have them sort of hidden down here in the bottom, it would be a little bit clearer to get what you want here directly within Safari. Now, maybe they'll give options to change this interface, but it seems like every year we get some sort of Safari revision. Now, while WWDC is a few weeks away, we should see the first features of iOS 27 in just about a week or so typically. Usually for Accessibility Awareness Day, Apple will post a few different accessibility features coming to the next version, and they usually do that a few days before Accessibility Awareness Day. So that falls on May 21st this year, so maybe around the 19th or so, we'll see the first features. And of course, I'll talk about that in a separate video once we know that for sure. But usually they'll show off accessibility features that are coming to iOS 27 and macOS 27 and iPadOS 27, and maybe even watchOS 27 and others. So hopefully we see a few features there, and then of course at WWDC, we'll see the official feature list when they publish that and show us everything new. Now, of course, there's a few features that most people want, other than the keyboard having the number row at the top. Many people would like to see split view like we have on the iPad, and maybe we'll see some version of that for the upcoming iPhone Fold or iPhone Ultra. But another suggestion I thought was quite good was a dynamic settings option that sort of changes based on what you use the most. So if you're regularly in accessibility settings, it would stay near the top, but maybe you go into message settings a lot. It could surface at the top as well. While that's not confirmed or not even leaked, I would love to see something like that, and I think that would be a great thing for most people that use settings and change things a lot. For example, for me, when I'm recording videos, I often turn off auto brightness and then have the screen stay unlocked, and then I could quickly change that back, leaving the settings at the top. That would be great to see them surface things like that. So with iOS 27, I think those are more features than we expected, however nowhere near what we expected with iOS 18 and iOS 17 where we had hundreds of changes. However, I think this gives us a good idea as the direction that Apple's going into with iOS 27, where we have some refinements, some slight changes for consistency and unity throughout the OS, and then a few extra features that many people would find helpful, or maybe refining different UI elements such as the camera that many people didn't like that much. So hopefully we'll see some changes there. But let me know what you want most from iOS 27 in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.